GMGM everyone, welcome back to another episode of Touchgrass Podcast. Today we have David from USD.AI. I'm sure you guys have seen the full kind of mania over the last couple of weeks with their TGE and whatnot. Today we want to dive deeper into not just crypto AI, but more broader AI landscape and understand the CapEx spending that's been happening with these hyperscalers and how a novel idea with respect to USD.AI and what they're doing. But yeah, welcome to the show, David. How are you?
Doing great, doing great.
Awesome. I think we should start here with the recent SpaceX and Anthropic announcement. Like first, this is so funny, right? Like for a couple of weeks, Anthropic is leading, and then Codex takes over the timeline, and suddenly they announce this compute deal, and it feels like Anthropic is back in the lead, and how they're kind of setting these limits and stuff. Could you kind of walk us through why they did that deal, what it means for general compute demand and stuff?
Um, Globally, um, yeah, I mean, it's the biggest build out in human history. So it's definitely one of the. I think people kind of underestimate the superstructured nature of how large these facilities are. They're just so fucking massive. Like a single data center is like arguably going to be bigger than all of DeFi put together, right? It's just incredibly massive scale. Like it is the project Hail Mary of our modern era, but we're not trying to save humanity. We're trying to make AGI and make also a lot of money on the way there. And people are saying like this AI cat or the Raul Paul or everyone down to like the AI capex boom it is the reason why our GDP is positive. If we didn't have the build outs today, we would be negative like for the first time in a very long time in U.S. history. It's just so drastic of a change in spending, which makes sense. People are like, where does the money come from? Well, it's coming from all the money leaving SaaS. It's coming from all the money leaving SaaS credit. It's going all to AI. And yeah, I think it's going to continue. It won't stop. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people how long this is going to last because this is really productive value. SaaS, how productive is SaaS and dashboarding? I don't know. I don't know how much that improves, but this stuff is truly uh, revolutionary. So the investment is worth it, without a doubt. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's what people are missing when it comes to company spending. From last year, the projected was 600, now it is 750 or something, 750 billion. They're like, we are definitely in a bubble. Everyone's trying to time the top. So it's kind of foolish, as you said. But can you walk us through how the financing has started? Like, how did these companies first start financing these build outs? And now why they're kind of taking loans instead of using the cash flows? Like, can you kind of walk us through step by step from where they started and where we are now?
Yeah, I think this is kind of I'm going to describe it and explain to you why it's a flaw in the way that it's structured today. So most of the sales for NVIDIA chips, 500 billion a year of GPU sales by NVIDIA, like across 5 quarters ish, and not every year. A lot of that, like 70%, goes to hyperscalers, the largest guys, the Amazons, the CoreWeaves, and these guys. Um, but what happens is that the sequence of events is that you need a customer. You need an anchor customer. So you need a tenant before you even do the build out. Think of it like a Miami like a build out of an apartment. You get all these people to sign up for and then they use that money as the equity to do the build out. Um, and that's fine. It works. But you're not really um, it's almost like accounts receivable financing in a sense because you're really just financing the cash flows of the customers that are coming in. It makes it so that it's safe, but it's incredibly hard to scale. And that you could only like they only want the best clients. And what happens with the equity of the deal is organized, and then the debt comes in last. Because you have the first the customer, that's the guaranteed cash flow. So the equity is like this. There's no risk here. Like if this guy's going to pay for 5 years, and then the debt is organized after you have the equity. Um, and typically it's off-take required. And this is also why it's a bit of a chicken and the egg because nobody wants to sign a deal unless you already have the chips, but nobody wants to get the chips if you don't have a customer. And so the only deals that really get financed are the largest deals, the biggest deals possible. And this really does remove the last 30% of the sales by NVIDIA. Like these people just can't get financing. Now you're coming to a different issue because it was so easy to set up the cap table and the cap structuring of the largest deals. They have energy problems. So hyperscalers have energy issues because a gigawatt is a lot of power. A gigawatt is the same amount of energy that Denver uses every year. This is like, and you really can't find that big energy, but you can find small clusters of energy. So energy is only a big issue for the big guys, but not for the smaller neoclouds, which are fast emerging and fast growing, especially as inference is like rapidly growing. So small guys can't get financing, but they have power. They have a wide availability and is very diverse, and use cases are expanding. Hyperscalers are reaching their cap. Even financing wise, like Meta tapped Blue Owl, right? Why Blue Owl? Why not a bank? And then Oracle's like tapped out on their financing. So both sides are starting to see financing issues, but power is really the main bottleneck for the biggest guys. Financing is an issue for both guys, but especially the neoclouds.
Yeah. And also, like, was because we've seen this happening in real time so fast. What does that kind of say about the entire manufacturing space and, as you said, energy and also the electrical components that are needed? Were we like, even though AI was not a big thing 4 years, 5 years back, were we really not that prepared to kind of meet this demand that it just happened so fast? And that's one of the reasons why all these stocks are just hitting new all-time highs every day because there's just so much demand that people are not anticipating.
Yeah, and this is actually why crypto is perfectly in position to underwrite this stuff. Like, there's a reason why every single AI HPC company at one point really did just do crypto mining, right? CoreWeave, Hut 8, all these other guys, and they're now expanding it because they're specialized in like scaling large scale capex with fast depreciation qualities at massive scale. That's what they were good at. It's like, in a sense, AI's growth wouldn't have been possible without ETH and BTC staking or mining. Um, so the scale that we're operating is it's not the same thing as vendor financing. I think that people call it vendor financing is what you saw with Cisco. It's kind of like a drug dealer that does his own drugs, which is, hey, I'm going to give you a loan from my balance sheet, and you're going to buy back my shit. Yeah, it's going to blow up every time. So what happens is that NVIDIA cannot finance their own deals. It's actually internal policy. Like, you can ask head of NVIDIA Capital or NVIDIA Financing Solutions. They're like, yeah, we do not finance our own deals, and they make it very, very clear. They said that 3 times. My first call with them, they're like, yeah, we don't finance. And this is why they actually have a list of preferred funders. Every single one of these preferred funders are actually just private credit funds. But as you know, private credit funds in deep retreat. But yeah, I mean, this is a demand-driven expansion. Um, uh, it is, you cannot, there wouldn't be these buildouts unless there were customers ready to pay. There's cash flows being paid, and that's why they can do these buildouts, especially because they're not financing their own deals. They're getting third parties. Yes, there might be some small investments by NVIDIA to, like, some of the LLMs and stuff like that, mostly because they're generating so much money for them. But it's not that circular as people think. It's circular in the fact that they're structuring their debt to get access to capital, like the Oracle deal. But that's because asset-backed financing has never really developed in this sector. And this is
Yeah.
this is the hammer in your tool set, not the screwdriver, not whatever, like a toothpick. It's really the main hammer to scale the trillion-dollar markets has always been asset-backed securitization markets. But that doesn't exist for GPUs. It exists for the
Yeah.
shell. It exists for the land, the energy, the the shell, but that's only 30% of the cost of a data center. 70% of that, of a $50 billion build out for a gigawatt, 35 billion is for GPUs, and that does not have an asset-backed financing market. Why? Like, how come this key element for houses, $42 trillion market, all created because of the mortgage-backed security industry? You literally can't think of a house without a mortgage. You think $1 million house is not expensive, but 10K a month mortgages. This is how people think about it.
Yeah.
A mortgage doesn't exist for GPUs. You can't get a loan against a single chip. You can only against large deals. That's just not scalable for a $10 trillion build out. You need to have an asset-backed securitization market. You need to have
Yeah.
asset-backed financing market, and that doesn't exist as a core tool. There is no diversified asset-backed security against a group of GPUs across different customers. It's only against CoreWeave. It's only against Lambda. That is not an ABS product. That's just a Lambda loan. That's just a CoreWeave loan. That's also why these bonds don't trade. because you're just trading CoreWeave. You're not actually trading a diversified pool of loans, which is what
Yeah.
makes it liquid
Yeah,
and
that's
tradable. Yeah, anyway. Okay.
yeah, that's where I was going. Like even I think BlackRock CEO came out saying that these things are growing so fast, there has to be a market to trade these things, compute futures or
Yeah.
whatever. But for our audience, David,
Yeah.
can you kind of explain how these debts are actually structured? Like, how is Google or someone going out and taking $50 billion for this build out? How is that actually happening? Like, you
Yeah.
mentioned bonds. How is that structured?
Well, the Google one is very special. That's typically with like a fluid stack, and they're selling the TPU as back financing, and that's because nobody wants to actually finance TPUs for TPU's sake because there's no actual secondary market for TPUs. So what Google does, and along with AMD, is that they do a backstop. They're like, with our company balance sheet, I am your pimp. I am going to guarantee your safety on this deal, and you will not default. If it defaults, we'll just guarantee a payout on rent. And that's how like fluid stack and these large deals are settled. That there is a guarantee not by the U.S. government, but by Google. It's not Fannie Mae. Um, one day, but that's how Google does those deals. Same with AMD. That's different from NVIDIA deals because NVIDIA is 90% of the financing of the chip market, right? So people don't require the guarantee for NVIDIA deals because the chips are so liquid, they're so valuable, and you can just put them on run pod, or I guess in this case, like in a cash, and just earn yield. You can just get it. It's like it's pretty much cash. Not pretty much cash. It's very far from cash, but it's it's a strong liquidity market around it. Um, so let's just go back to the NVIDIA deal. So an NVIDIA deal is there's two ways about it. Typically, it's secured against the company itself, which is horrible. Like if you did all these guarantees and you try to IPO, you will get slaughtered in the public markets. They're like, oh, your debt to whatever cash flows is like 10x, 20x. Like, yeah, this is dog shit. Like, this is not worth the price. They want to do off balance sheet non recourse debt, which is against the chip itself, much like a mortgage. It's not against you personally, it's against the house. You just lose the house, but at least you don't go into personal bankruptcy, is the core difference. Like, in all these companies that are doing corporate backed guarantees are willing to go into bankruptcy for these loans. And nobody really wants that. Nobody really likes that. And it's also just not scalable. So you do asset-backed financing. The issue with doing a loan against the asset is that once a loan is in there, you can't get the money out. I guess the best metaphor would be like soul staking. You gotta have derivatives for it, right? Like a cheat of soul. You gotta pull out the money so you can use it for other stuff, and then you can borrow against it. This is the mortgage-backed securities, by the way. This is actually why we call it LSTFi, because that liquid staking token or liquid swinging derivative is that is what creates liquidity for something that makes it locked. Imagine LSTFi, but for data centers, where you can actually take the money out, borrow against it, and do all these other things and restake it. Well,
Yeah.
whatever you thought, but you wouldn't restake it. But you would actually use it for liquidity purposes. It's not actually a 5-year loan. It's really one day. You can sell the next day, as long as there's
Yeah.
enough volume and secondary market volume. So I'm explaining something that's so obvious in DeFi, right? Like, yeah, if something's locked, you just make it tradable, and then that's the thing that we're good at. It is so hard to do this in TradFi, because in order to issue, I mean, wrap stake ETH, right? It's one multi-call. It's minted. In TradFi, you have to get a loan against a bank, a warehouse facility, do 10,000 loans across 10 different clients. This is how auto loans are batched up, right? Or houses or airplanes or every other equipment in the world. Then you have to tranche it up, price it, go on a roadshow to resell it because DB or JPM wants their money back from the warehouse short-term receivable. And then they go on, and then they make it tradable, and they have to add it out indices. This takes a year. This takes 3 years sometimes for a new asset.
And everyone is running out of time, so that's definitely not
Everyone's always running
feasible.
out of time. The obsolescence doesn't allow you to keep up with this antiquated 100-year fintech product called Fannie Mae, right? And they try to keep it up with the structure, and this is why you have like UCC laws. I think it was UCC 12 for like specifically auto loans to make electronic documents of title. That took like, and that was just more recent. That was made for specifically auto loan industry, but you have to make it instantaneous. This is where DeFi works. This is why Figure is doing it on chain, because like he realized you have to make it efficient. The thing is, he's creating an efficiency. What I'm saying, you're creating an entire market. This market doesn't even
Yeah.
exist for GPUs, and I'm like, this is blockchain, the perpetuality nature of yield, much like perps did for futures, is that you can create
Yeah.
a perpetual yield instrument, which is what really a stable coin is. A yield-bearing stable is a perpetual yield instrument, is that you can refresh the loans for the speed of obsolescence for chips. And it makes it really, really, man, it's like the perfect combo. It's like kimchi and ramen, right? So, it's Korean metaphor, but there's better metaphors out there. It's like olive oil and bread. Like
Yeah.
it really is a perfect combo to solve the specific financing issue, which is right now the limiter of growth for the entirety of the AI sector.
Yeah, I think before we get to how USD.AI works and all of that, a couple more questions on like the broader AI stuff. David, like right now, it looks like it's just a race to capital on who's going to take the kind of throne and who's going to kind of be the big winner. Is that accurate? Like, whoever has more capital is going to win it. Is it that simple?
Yes, yeah, it is. I think you see it with like Claude, and everyone's moving to Codex, right? Because they're like, why does Claude 4.7 suck? Because they don't have enough Blackwells. Like, that's the answer. Like they don't have enough chips. They're trying to go on TPUs, which is nice, but like the answer is like how many tokens can you take? How much capacity do you have? And then how much money do you have to like finance that, and how much energy do you have to do this? And that's purely a money issue in structuring. And people are giving Sam shit for building data centers. So look at him now. Like, that was the right decision. Like having capacity was big. This is why we saw something with SpaceX and Anthropic. Was the TPUs big enough? No, absolutely not. They take forever to build out. And I think Anthropic needed the chips today, and SpaceX AI is now a neocloud, because that is the business. This is the manufacturing business, and a better metaphor is that this is just a real estate business. You have a landlord who owns the office, and you have tenants. And then what does the landlord do? The landlord pays Wall Street. Same thing. What is AI doing today? It is paying Wall Street. It's the second largest business in AI. The first largest business is NVIDIA. The second business is Wall Street, and then it's Anthropic and OpenAI. And Wall Street makes way
Yeah.
more money than those two at all. Like it's just it is just, to put in numbers, 500 billion in sales. You're actually paying 700 billion for 500 billion because of interest. Much like a house, you're not actually paying $1 million for a house. You're paying 2 to 3 across 30 years.
200 billion
And
in interest.
200 billion in interest. And OpenAI is making 20 billion, right? So the money is in the chips, and the second largest way to make money in chips is being the debt. It's people that's 12% a year for interest. I mean, no, 12% across 3-4 years. Like it's a lot across, just like 12 times 4. Yeah, it's a lot of money. It's advertising, so it's lowering each time. But
Yeah.
like
I mean,
it
didn't OpenAI offer like 14% interest or something when they were kind of trying to raise money or something?
Yeah,
Like,
no, and that's cheap back then. That for there's a demand for yield. They want to pay money to get that capital, and that's what DeFi is suffering, right? DeFi is suffering from like, okay, I want to earn yield, but I have to give it to someone that's willing to pay for it, and that's why they call it the Ouroboros, right? Where is the money coming from? Where is the yield coming? It's coming from like yeah, seriously, it's you're using money to borrow against money. Oh wow, real productive. Like you're making the world a better place this way. Now, there's no actual use of the capital. At least for a house, you're
yeah.
actually living in the house, right? There's a reason to actually buy it, and then people forget like just basic principles. Now, why are people borrowing to buy GPUs? It's because it's the amount of money just being pushed into AI is so large, and this is truly the best way I think that DeFi could like position itself as a center participant in the AI sector, is that it would become the
Yeah.
second largest business and replace Wall Street.
Before we dive into the yield stuff, where I think it was, yeah, I think the most highest yield you guys are offering right now. Uh, the one final question regarding this, the hyperscalers, is when will this become a concern, like broader, like today it's 750, next year it's going to be a trillion, trillion five. Like, is there a point where it's becoming concerning when the debt is keeps going up? Uh, like people are like, if they run out of money, government is just going to bail them out, kind of thing. At
No,
what point do you think it's a concern?
I don't think it's a concern until they start doing bad structuring. Right now, it's really good structuring. The loans are structured based on cash flows that are there, based on balance sheets that are there. It's not structured as ninja loans, like with the assumption that like there's no actual demand on the other side. It's structured as like with income and with a job. Like literally, there are AI jobs and there's AI income, and money is being used for it. As SaaS continues to decline, people ask me what the TAM is of the sector. It's not just GPU sales; it's the replacement of all of SaaS. It's the replacement of all of credit, which is even bigger. Like, we were giving loans against SaaS companies because they were great cash flows, 10 years history. It's like, oh wow, it's like the cash flows are great every year. So I'm going to give you unsecured corporate loan without any backing. That's why private credit is under retreat, because they're giving loans against a dashboard that had some stickiness of a moat, and that moat is gone. So where's it going? Where's that money? It doesn't disappear. It's just going to AI. It's going to AI tokens. But the AI company isn't making money. They're loss leading, right? Why? They're making so much money, these AI companies, but they're still losing money. Why? It's because 90% of their cost is coming from compute. So you can't give a loan against the AI company because it's negative cash flow generating. What you can really give a loan to is just the GPU. I think you're going to see the elimination of dashboarding. You're going to see elimination of change of credit. It's not software eating the world. It's AI replacing all jobs. And the only market in the future is not going to be AI loans either. It's not going to be like SaaS, where it's cash flow based. It's going to be against the 90% of their costs. It's against the GPU itself. The
Yeah.
GPU-backed financing is not a niche. It's in fact the replacement of all of credit in humanity today, and that we see for the foreseeable future. So people say it's going to grow. I'm like, the only debt you're going to trade in the future, I think, is going to be Bloomberg. On Bloomberg, is going to be just GPU-backed financing. That's my theory, because it is by far the largest and continuing to be the only cost in the AI sector today. Some components of oil, because that relates to the running of the chips, but it will be around this AI token factory, and that is the new factory today. It is the build
Yeah.
out. This is the build out of China, right? This is the build out of the oil sector. It is these data centers, and 70% of data center costs is in GPU.
Yeah, I think I heard it in the All In podcast or something. They were comparing this build out to the electricity back in, I don't know, maybe 50 or 100 years back or something.
Yeah.
And at that time, they spent in 5 or 6 years combined was 250 billion or something, and we're just spending in 1 year 750. So just to kind of give you a comparison for the audience, like the scale of what's happening in the space is just wild.
Yeah.
David, like now let's talk about what you guys are building. I think you explained what you guys actually do, but can you kind of give brief workings of USD.AI in terms of what the end customer is, where the money is going, and a little about how much yield currently you're providing?
What DeFi does really well is that it gives loans against assets. It's very bad at giving loans against companies. It always has been. We don't give any loans to companies. We give loans against chips and chips alone. Um, and that is what SUSD.AI does. It is a large. It's pretty much like a Camino or Aave, but instead of putting up Sol, which generates some cash, but it's very liquid. We give loans against chips, which it's not that liquid, but it generates a lot of cash. And generates 70 to 80% of the value of the entire value of the chip across 1 year. That's our liquidity. It's the cash flows. It's not going to be traded volume, which we also monitor with an ecosystem of something called ITADs, which are IT asset disposition, which is the guys who buy and sell chips. But yeah, it was effectively we are trying to trade the interest rate and discover the interest rate of intelligence, and that's discovered by being the interest rate protocol for GPUs.
Yeah, and I think you've recently posted that you've given out the largest loan and you hit a new TVL record. But has that growth? What kind of loans are you giving? Can you kind of say how much size it is? And yeah,
Yeah, every single month we've had our largest loan yet, since a few months back, since January, and we keep on. I think it's just a culmination of the work that we've been doing over the last 7-8 months when we first launched. These deals take time. Like it's not like putting on the basis trade. It's not like giving a loan to a market maker. It really does take installation periods. We are trying our best to smoothen out the yield that's generated, which is why we did this escrow yield thing called with willing to trust. But every single month, and you'll see another one coming out hopefully end of this month. Might blink into by a few weeks. Just you know, installations. I mean, these are made to order. So once you get a financing, it's immediately sent. The order is sent to um, Taiwan, start getting manufactured, gets shipped to like France, and then it's installed, and then we have to verify it, and then it's released. Now we are the fastest financing solution in the entire market today, in the entire world. There's nobody else that can get it along faster than with us. Mostly because we're very boilerplate. Like we're very very aggressive. We're very rude. We're very impatient, and we're very ruthless. But man, you can get a loan really fast. Like if you don't meet our requirements, yeah, get the fuck out. Like go find your own loan. Like go talk to your private credit fund and try to like negotiate. Not with us. We have stringent requirements. It's actually what happens when you get a loan from like Fannie for a house. You miss one payment, you lose it. But that's why you have these intermediaries like a JPM or like these local mortgage brokers to help you with
Yeah.
some missed payments. But yeah, if you go directly to the source, which is with USD.AI, it is a program. It is a machine. It does not have a call center. It tells you if you miss your payment, you lose it. And we prefer that. And if you want, and we create some buffer for them, like a debt service reserve assets, which is the minimum amount of months that's drawn as a buffer. Like, hey, have 3 months there. If you miss 2 payments just because of like some rainy day, like we're drawing from that pool. They actually mint that in USD.AI, so they're actually earning 4.5% with the PYUSD partnership we have. So all of our PYUSD that mint gets 4.5%. So they're actually getting a lower interest rate as a result of it. They're actually lowering their all-in interest rate from like by 50 bits, so like from 12 to 11.5. So it's stuff like that that lets you become the effectively a bank-like entity to create this thing. I mean, this is actually speaking of the oil boom. This is like the basis of Citibank, right? It was just to create. It was brought out from the financing of these sectors. Even J.P. Morgan was like, hey, he financed a lot of these railroads and buildouts in the early days, and that's why they are
Yeah.
who they are today. I think the second largest business in AI that everyone is overlooking is a stablecoin, is a yield-bearing stable. We're the only startup that's a preferred funder on the NVIDIA preferred funder list. And everyone else is a private credit fund because they don't think you can create you can create like a large debt book with tech, but crypto clearly shows that you can.
Yeah. And David, do you guys what's your record time for a loan right now? I'm pretty
Uh,
sure you know off the top of your
10
head.
days.
10 days. That's
You
insane.
know, it was already installed. It was the guy already. He actually bought it with his own PA, and it
Okay.
was already installed. It was on a location. It was in the U.S., so it makes it really easy. And I'm like, yeah, let's just do this. He actually, it could have been shorter. He just pushed back on stuff. I'm like, no, like this is the terms. And then he's like, all right, I want the money. And he bought another set of GPUs, and then that was escrow because it wasn't installed yet. So that took longer, like 30 to 60 days because it has to get delivered. But if it's already installed in a tiered data center, and we then like technically own the underlying asset as a result of the transaction, because there's a lien against the underlying. Yeah, it's great.
How many in the pool? Like how many actual devices are in a pool of that they can tap into?
Oh, how many GPUs are? Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah. How many GPU devices are like in a pool, minimum, maximum?
Should probably add that as a metric. We just have the TVL size. I mean, there's a bunch of dots in the world map that we have that kind of shows like each of the months that are there right now. You can, I'm not sure if you can pull. Can I present? I'm always all
Sure.
right. Share screen. Share screen. Yeah, you can see it right now. We're very transparent. You can just pull up the loans that are here, and the upcoming loans as well, where it shows you like what status it is, like equipment out for delivery. This is a classic case of us escrowing the capital. This one's very close. It's actually installed. We're just trying to get it released. That should be happening this week, actually. Um, but and yeah, we don't release money until we verify, and obviously all the processes are there, and it has to be installed. But in the meanwhile, you can actually just see all the loans that are just happening. There's in Canada or if it's in Europe. And we have an announcement for Asia exposure coming soon. That we have a. I don't go more to that, but global expansion is happening. We kind of tidied up the upcoming loans because there are some loans that are like a little too far out. So this is a pretty honest explanation of all the kind of loans kind of coming in. If you want to get in details, you can also just look into all the loans that are being shared and deployed over time. But yeah,
So is the maximum active loan is like 30 million or something right now?
right now, next one's going to be 96.
And then David,
Got it.
like, if we're saying that the chip demand isn't going to slow down anytime soon, would you say you guys have the most sustainable yield in all of DeFi right now?
I think it's the most sustainable yield in the entire world. This is the largest capital demand that humanity has ever seen. This is by far the best financing structure. It's one of the highest cash flowing assets in the world. It pays down so fast. It's just like there's a great moment where like you can get great yield and you can also get your money back very, very fast. Just everyone doesn't know how to underwrite it. And we're probably one of the top authorities today just because we've seen so many deals. If you work at a private credit fund, you do one deal a year. We've done more deals than like a handful of GPs put together. Mostly because we are comfortable with these underlying assets. It's also just like I feel like everyone in crypto kind of gets Bitcoin mining. Like it's just kind of something we've seen and kind of like underwritten. I've seen deals, I've financed deals. I'm like, this is very straightforward. It's like a data center is such a perfect place to transport an asset on chain. The only thing that'll be better than this is like when it comes to physical assets, it's probably gold in a Swiss vault where it's redeemable, which is what Swiss ETFs are. Now it's a data center with also security and insurance and with a fence around it, a rectangular square in the middle of fucking nowhere in West Texas. Yeah, like you can tokenize that easy. It's better than tokenizing, I don't know, like a car repo in like Harlan. You're gonna get shot. You literally do. Go on YouTube. Like try to calculate the residual value of a defaulted loan for auto loan for like a Honda Civic. Yeah, it's going to be less than 5% residual value. For us, it's like 100%.
How
Like
much is the
like a
yield
cent.
right now? How much is the
Right
yield right
now,
now?
SUSDI is like 7.4% because the utilization is like less than half. But that's about to get bumped up. Our trading on Pendle is around 10%. Because that's where people expect the yield to kind of settle out. A lot of the loans are around 12%. We
Yeah.
go from 7 to 15 is our range of loans being issued based on a box that is governance driven. Effectively, if it's Amazon or like Fortune 500, yeah, you're getting 7 at a 70% LTV, and it's 10 if it's or 9 if it's like 80% LTV. Now, if it's like, hey, there's no offtake, there's no rental agreement, and you're just buying the chips, it's a 15% interest rate. Well, what often happens is that we've actually saw because we have this reinsurance with Munich Re and Barker. We there's this case where like I explained this chicken and egg problem where like, hey, if you don't have the chips, I can't give you the deal. If you have the deal, then it's hard. If you don't have the deal, then you can't really get the chips. So we help them finance the build out at a higher interest rate. But then by the time it's already getting installed, like literally when they start shipping, there's so many customers lined up, and then they can get the offtake almost instantly. And yeah, that's a 15% interest rate. But oftentimes we never actually had a deal where we started at 15% interest rate. But by the time it's installed,
Got it.
it's 10 to 12. That's where like the
So, so the main reason I'm asking is there's so much of capital in DeFi right now that's probably earning 2 to 3%, and there's so many people that have capital on chain, and they're trying to kind of optimize this yield. We're seeing so many AI agent yield vaults trying to, arb these small inefficiencies that happening. Do you think like once people realize what USD.AI is actually trying to do, there'll be a lot of that money flowing in
I hope
into
so.
uh,
Yeah,
because
I mean
there's
it's
billions sitting there doing nothing.
exactly. I think once we get our yields to like closer to 10%, and we've actually it's only recently we showed the world that we can't scale the yield. We went from like literally 10 to 100 million just through these consecutive processes. And yeah, I think the world is starting to realize that USD.AI is open for business and we are generating yield.
Yeah.
Um, and but the core issue now is education. I think a lot of people are kind of misunderstand the product that we have. They think we're giving unsecured loans to corporations, and I'm like, that is literally what I hate. We are giving asset-backed financings. We're structuring the risk correctly, and it's more about communication and education.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I honestly believe that USDA protocol will be able to earn 10% at 2 billion, at 10 billion. And
Yeah.
I just have to generate the liquidity for it. And we're working with partners, working with Solana, working with other like liquidity partners to make it very, very deep so that you can accommodate for the liquidity demands of yield farmers. But I think the only competition we really have in terms of yield is frankly STRC. Like that's people are farming that. I'm like, if you really do believe in digital credit and like the liquidity of this stuff, that'll keep us peg and this three body problem of MSTR, BTC, and STRC, and if it really is sustainable, then yeah, go for it. But I think once people start digesting that risk and they want to diversify to other yields, we're a great next high yield option that they'll consider. In terms of the
When
people farming,
you're
yeah, and
Yeah,
I actually
go
think
ahead. Finish it though.
we're technically lower risk than a lot of the vaults because our permutations of risk is so low. Like think about like why we had this multi-collateral issue with a few of these exchanges. Even if you're like like go all the way back to Resolve where like you had like 15, 20 assets as a curator. The job of a curator is so much harder than the job of a curator on USD.AI. On USD.AI, you have 8 assets. That's it.
Yeah.
Um, it's just
When you're going
H200.
to when you're going into these meetings, like with you said, education is so important. What's the one question they keep asking about uh, before they're onboarded, or what's something that's common when you're kind of trying to close a deal, and one
Yeah,
objection keeps coming up?
in terms of depositor deals, you mean? Yeah. And every time we get a complaint, we create a new product on top. So the number one complaint that we had was like, what about the depreciation? Isn't this risky? I'm like, well, first off, we're the most aggressive amortized loan in the market today. That's like it's pretty much 100% cash sweep. Like anytime they make money, they're paying down the debt, and then they just bet on the residual value being higher than they expected. Secondly, the um, we create a new instrument with the reinsurance. Because risk adjusted yield would be like I don't know this space, and so I'm gonna guess that the depreciation risk is risk adjusted 5% discount on 10% yield, so it's really 5%. And I'm like, no, you're wrong. Let me go price it with someone who actually understands the risks, and will cover that risk that you're describing. So we end up paying 150 bips, a little less now. Every single month is getting lower. We've calculated for them, like now it's 8.5. But without the risk you're describing, which was number one, which is the depreciation of chips. I think people
Yeah.
kind of bought into Michael Burry's like accounting thing. I'm like, it's funny because he's a guy who's supposed to be in the numbers and actually do these deals, and he's just reading like GAAP accounting. And I'm like, all right, dude, like it's actually like one of the most retarded takes I've seen in the space of like, dude, you really assuming that they actually think it's like 5 to 6 years. By the way, it actually is
Yeah.
that length. You see it with H100s, like the pricing just pumped because the time it takes to deploy the capital is so difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it got demystified like I think 2 months ago. In January or so, he said that he started the Substack, and the first thing he talked about was the depreciation. But I think it got proven wrong in just I think a month or so. But yeah, David, I
Yep.
think we're on time. My final question is: you said a lot of the compute. There should be a new asset class. This is like the future of how debt is traded and whatnot. Is this the final, like, what does the final form of this compute backed asset class even look like? And that can include USDI and what you guys are building now, but also what you guys have planned for the future.
I think the ultimate version is a very simple step. And we don't even have to talk about the end version. We just have to talk about what we have to do next. We have to make the debt tradable. We have to make the debt liquid. If there is so much CapEx going in, it's stuck in there. This is kind of the issue. You will literally have a renaissance the moment that the capital is no longer liquid. much like how we revived DeFi because of LSTs. Remember, there was a lull, and then they're like, oh wait, all this yield and staking and lock capital can now be removed to do for other things. Was actually a big trade by like 3 Arrows. They're like, yeah, wrap stake ETH. It's pretty much the same thing as ETH. It's far more liquid. You can actually use it in DeFi and stuff. That's the first step. But what I said before about like how AI will eventually GPU-backed financing is no longer be a niche. It's going to be the entire future of all credit, and in a sense, or at least like very, very involved. That is the future. Now, compute-backed futures and these other ecosystems that are being built on top, I think it's a little questionable how it's going to be generated. Like, they're trying to think of like token-backed futures, but in terms of actually the balancing of the market, 90% of CME contracts fail because of the imbalance of markets and imbalance of demands. Right now, I don't see many organic. There might be some buyers, some hedgers, but like it's not the perfect market. Like in terms of large participants that actually are trying to hedge their exposure, it's already kind of settled in 2 to 3 year contracts, anyways. Like in the terms of discounts you get if you do a longer term contract. What you'll see is interest rate derivatives. I think interest rate derivatives for compute is exactly what people will want to trade as a form of hedge, much like mortgage rates. You don't trade Airbnb or cap rates in real estate. You hedge mortgage rates because 90% of the capital in your house is on rental income is going to the mortgage rate. You're paying them the debt. 90% of the revenues generated in this space is paying them the debt. So what you really want to trade is the debt, not the revenues, not the costs. You're really paying, like really the debt drives the equity costs. If the rates go higher, yeah, your compute's gonna go higher. If your rate goes lower, then all that jazz. So yeah, I think the prime rate is of AI is kind of needs to be discovered, and then that's when you can start going derivative, and that's what really USD.AI really is. It's interest rate protocol for intelligence.
Awesome. I think that kind of sums up we can end there. But yeah, David, this was awesome. I think our audience kind of now better understands what, in general, like what these build outs are, what USD.AI is kind of doing with new novel ways of financing. But yeah, I mean, if we were to have you on every time a big AI news come out, you'll be on here every day, I think. But yeah, thank you so much, David, for your time.
Thank you for having me.